The story begins with the introduction of the main character. His name is Zhang Hao. He is an ordinary office worker who saw thousands of the same ordinary people every day. On the same simple and ordinary day he was coming home. He hated his job and promised himself to change jobs. Suddenly on his way home he saw a red moon, and the next day he woke up in pink pajamas. He was shocked by this. He did not understand what happened in the world he was in. The men raise the children, and the women are the head of the family. Modern men rely on women, who, in turn, have limitless power to move bricks. Men here, compared to women, are physically weak and cowardly. Men are delicate flowers, and women are Barbie King Kongs. The men were very weak and couldn't open the bottle. They turned to the girls for help. This place Zhang Hao called the world of rich mamas. But is it really me? No. Look everyone, I'm a real man. I swear to rise up and be a real man in this world. He suddenly had a half-sister goddess who was ready to cover him with her breasts. How, come here, and also a pure and innocent followered. Well, and the oppressive and overbearing director, why didn't you call me? One thing's for sure, in this world, you can actively live off woman. How didn't understand how this could have happened. Why did he wake up in his pink pajamas? Maybe it was someone's joke. He began to remember what could have gone wrong, because he was coming home from work, but he saw a red moon, and lo and behold, he had already woken up as a girl, and everything around him had changed. Hao's dad came into the room and said, "Get up, didn't you want to go shopping with Lun Moon today?" "I'll go shopping. Get ready for dinner for Auntie Zhang. Learn proper grooming from Lun Lun. Hurry up and get dressed well." Hao didn't understand. Who is this, and where is he? Chen is who? Chen is my father's last name? Who is Lun Lun? I'm a grown guy, but I have to dress up and go somewhere? Maybe I'm crazy. At that moment his phone rang. Hao answered and heard Hao. Open the door. Hao heard a familiar voice. It would be Brother Lun with a tattoo on his arm, fair and brave, an older brother I admire, the toughest, a real beast. "Brother Moon, wait a minute, I'm on my way." There was a boy standing at the door, and he said, "Really, what took you so long, making a handsome man like me wait so long at the door? What if they started harassing me?" It was that Brother Moon. Hao did not recognize him. Lun came up to Uncle. Hao, just look how handsome Lun Lun is. You should learn from him." Hao was puzzled. What's going on? Married? Skincare? Where the hell am I in this world? The gender roles of men and women have swapped. Women have become emperors and celebrities. Men are responsible for the home, and women are the backbone of the family. Men are protected by women, who in turn have limitless power. Men here, compared to women, are physically weak and cowardly. Men are responsible for raising children, and women do all the physical work. Moreover, the significant role of women has led to a break in the balance between the ratio of men and women. So men are a treasure. Wow, look at those two. So beautiful. Lun Lun said to Hao, "First let's go buy a mask, then let's go for a manicure." Someone used my mask again. We should also buy a gas can, because there are a lot of female maniacs lately. Hao thought the world had gone crazy. Hao grabbed Lun by the arm and said, "I will give you back your manhood." They went into a tattoo shop and said, "Get me a dragon tattoo all over my back, and him too." Lun was afraid and said, "Wait, are you crazy?" Hao replied, "I'm not crazy. Now I'll show you what a real man is." There were beautiful girls sitting in the tattoo parlor. They told him that it's not easy for guys to get tattoos, and it's not for sissies. Hao took off his t-shirt and said, "You all behold, here is a real man." The girls were shocked by his behavior. He said he wanted a dragon and a white tiger all over his back, and a white tiger. The girls were delighted and scattered money to him, and asked him to continue. After that Hao returned home completely tired. There he was met by his half-sister Zhang Qian. Hao was shocked, and thought he had the wrong door. He said, Hao, come back." After which he did go home and sat down at the table. He didn't remember what was going on. Who were these people? Dad told him. Didn't he tell him that Aunt Yan and Zhang Qianqin were coming to their house for dinner? As soon as he saw them he immediately ran away. He said he just forgot it. The guest said it's no big deal. They know Hao has a lot of lessons. Hao forgot the dad is getting married again. This is Zhang Yan and her daughter Zhang Qianqin. In a few days we'll be living together. Chen, your skills are getting better and better. Preparing for our arrival after dinner. Hao went to his room, lay down on the bed, and said he was tired, and finally this day is over. Wearing cute clothes, cute makeup, also all day pestering. I'm really awake. Or have I moved into a feminist world? My father and brother have become feminine. Eventually that's waiting for me too. Will I be a wife too? They say men still have connections. He freaked out and said there's no way I'm going to be abroad. I have to find a way back, and threw a teddy bear at the door. At that moment, his sister walked into his room and the teddy bear hit her. She walked up to Hao and hugged him and said, "I'm sorry." I didn't expect you missed me. Hao blushed with embarrassment. Sister Kin thought he was sick because his face was red. She wanted to check it, but he said there was nothing wrong with him. Hao went to bed. Suddenly a girl's shadow appeared in his room. It woke him up. He just woke up and didn't understand who it was and why so late. A girl came up to him. Hao exclaimed, "Who are you?" She said to him, "Why, don't you remember me?" After all, she was the one who brought him here. He remembered looking at the red moon and said he remembered her. It was her. "Who are you? Why did you bring me into this world?" He answered, "You can call me the god of the blood moon. Didn't you say you didn't have a girlfriend and haven't had one yet? There are so many girls in this world and they all love you. Isn't that good?" Hao said there are no normal people here and asked her to take him back. It was easy for her to do that, but he had to complete a task. What task? He had to become a real man. Then if you become a real man in this feminist world, he would have a chance to take it all back. But if he fails the mission, how will dissolve into this world dissolve? You mean become a girl? Yeah, that could happen. I hope you have a good time. And she's gone. But he didn't get to ask the most important question. How does one become a real man here? For a morning Hao thought it was a strange dream, but he saw the red belt and realized that it was definitely not a dream and he really needs to complete this task. But what does it mean to become a real man in this world? After all, he definitely looks like a girl now. Hao decided to deal with this task later. First he needed to learn about this world. He sat down on the floor and began to study the newspapers. He was very surprised. Was it all true? After all, what had been written was complete nonsense. First of all, there are still ways to grade a man in this world, so girls are more active too. And shivering and goosebumps, weakness, all this is typical of the physiological reaction of guys. How much more does he have to remember? Is there any other way to get home? No, let's put the god of the blood moon aside. There must be a scientific explanation for this. First he must study the strange celestial phenomenon that night. What if it's just a change in the magnetic field? Hao decided not to rely on this strange assignment, but he was not an expert in that field, but he could have hired someone. But who should he look for and what would he tell him? After all, Hao was a high school student with no money in his pocket, but he didn't get upset and decided to get some money first. Out of the room he was met again by his sister. She said, Hao, good morning. Hurry up and try the breakfast that your sister made. He replied, okay, Sister Kin. After breakfast, he went to the dressing room. Standing at the mirror he said he had to admit, despite his feminine features, his face looks quite attractive. Today Hao is going to school for the first time in this world. On the way Lun told him that he applied a new lipstick color today. Does it suit him? It's the hit of the season. He asked Lun to keep his distance. Lun replied, Hao, what's wrong with you? We used to do this a lot, Hao said. You see, I happen to have new principles. I want to be a man, and they can't. Lun exclaimed, what? How can you say that? There's nothing good about it. You can't get married. Hao, hurry up and go. The girl is staring at them. What? Where is it? Right there behind the pillar was a girl. She was admiring the beauty of the high school students. Hao said, what do they have to be afraid of? We're two big guys and we're afraid of her? Don't worry, if she dares to come near us, I'll chase her away. What? Hao, what are you saying? You can't even lift a brick. That's not true. I used to be a good fighter. You wish. Let's go another way. He took Hao by the hand and they ran off in the other direction, breaking away from that girl. They are very tired and sweaty. Lun said that now they have to repaint. As they approached the main gate of the school, Hao was surprised at the size of the school. After all, this is Alliston's business school. It really seems like all the black work in this world is done by girls. Is my family super rich? Am I going to such an expensive school? When you entered the classroom, the first thing Hao saw was a guy asking for help from a girl to help you open the water bottle. What? I'm so weak that I can't open the water bottle either. Hao walked up to them and said, freeze. I'll help. He grabbed the bottle and tried to open it, but she couldn't do anything. Maybe it was screwed tight? Or was the pose wrong? He was furious and tried to open the small water bottle. The whole class was watching intently, but in the end he couldn't open it. He silently gave the water bottle to the girl to open it. Hao was ashamed of this, because the girl effortlessly opened the bottle of water. The girls came up to him and began to ask what happened. Prince Charming wants to open a bottle? Let me help. I'll help unscrew it some more. Don't get in the way. But Lun told them not to pay attention. He hasn't been feeling well lately, so he might express himself strangely. Don't worry, it totally sucks. We should get some exercise. After all, we have to finish a real man's assignment. Walking down the school corridor, all the girls admired him. They were amazed at his beauty. His hands and right skin, his waist was thin, and his legs slender. I can't go on like this. A handsome man is handsome, but I'm too weak. It's time to find a place to train. We have to come. But first let's look how found Thai boxing training for beginners. It didn't look bad, but we need to check. But physical training will not be enough. We also need to work on mental training. We have to make a reminder. Suddenly a girl came up to him. She frightened him. Her name was Huang. Her classmate Hao said to her, "Why do you come silently, like a ghost?" "It's not silent, it's you." Hao was so busy that he didn't hear Hao. "You're not texting some girl you like, right? What are you talking about? And don't lean so close to me, guys and girls can't be that close." But he took Hao's hands and said, "Your hands are so white and soft, and your fingers are so long and beautiful." Hao didn't expect her to behave that way. She said to him, "Hao, you're a little strange today. You weren't like this before, you were making it up." "I've always been like this." "Hao, maybe you didn't get enough sleep? I know an ancient massage technique, let me help you know." Hao was surprised by Hong's strength. "Aren't all the girls in this world so strong?" At that moment, their English teacher, who was also their homeroom teacher, entered the classroom. Hao opened the book and began to familiarize himself with the study material. As it turned out that he understood everything, because he had graduated from school a long time ago. The content of this book was not difficult for him. The first use in this world found. He thought, "Teacher Ma, look at my confident eyes, call me to the board soon, let me show myself." At that moment, the teacher looked up and called his name. Hao thought it was his time to show himself, but the teacher asked him, "Are you not feeling well? Do you have cramps in your lips? Would you like to go to the infirmary?" Hao answered disappointedly that he was fine, and she was just imagining things. Hao's classmates began to discuss what was wrong with our prince. Totted, "He's kind of weird, my perfect image of a prince is not going to be broken." Strange, even though Hao is handsome, just now he looked like a retard. Hao was in a panic and hoped it was all just a dream. After school he and Lun went home. He asked Hao if he was okay. He replied that he was fine, he probably just didn't get enough sleep, but in fact Hao was very tired. Walking down the road, a girl approached him and asked Hao how he felt about her throwing a basketball past her. Others pestered Hao, but he just ignored them. To himself he thought, "What a horrible thing, going to school is more horrible than going to work. I want to go back." A cute girl came up to him. She wanted to tell him something. She confessed her feelings to him and offered to date him. But Hao said, "But I don't plan to start dating yet. I have to go." Lun told him that all the excellent girls from every class like you. "I am so jealous of you." But Hao asked to watch his words and suggested we go to the canteen. Standing in the canteen, Hao wondered why everyone was eating so little. But Lun asked Hao, why has he been called his brother lately? That sounds strange enough. Lun went up to the cook and asked him to put on a portion of greens and a portion of spinach. No rice, he told him. "I've been on a diet lately and only eat vegetables all the time." Hao couldn't believe it. Does this world and guys have such small stomachs? He decided to check it out and ordered the biggest portion of stew, more meat, and a portion of rice. Lun was surprised and said to him, How, so you will get fat quickly?" Hao answered him that guys have to eat a lot, otherwise how can you grow? Classmates didn't believe it. Did Hao seriously decide to eat it all? After all, taco meat is fatty and disgusting, even though it looks quite appetizing. Liu Feng came up to Hao and said to him, "Why do you eat so much? Only immigrant workers eat like that." Hao asked him, "Who is he anyway?" Liu Feng replied, "Are you kidding me? A few days ago we went to self-training class together. We haven't seen each other for 2 days, but you seem to have gained weight. Despite our popularity, we have to watch our figure, and you are so fat today." Hao couldn't stand it and answered him, "You must have problems with your AST, you need to get them fixed, and also, why do you look down on migrant workers? If it weren't for the immigrant uncles, no, immigrant aunts work tirelessly to build our country, but would you lead such a carefree life now?" Liu Feng cried and said that he only told him for his own good, and that he didn't expect you to say that to Med. The classmates didn't understand what was going on. Why was Liu Feng crying? Could it be that Hao made him cry? They didn't expect Hao to be so tough, and his image of God shattered. Liu Feng saw that all the girls were on his side and smiled miserably. Suddenly a girl came up to them and said, "How much Hao eats is his own business, and who said you can't eat much? This is discrimination and prejudice." She walked up to Hao and asked him, "Are you hungry today? Here, have some more. I have a lot." Hao thought in surprise, "My goodness, another hot dye." He told Liu Feng, "If you have something to say, go ahead and speak quickly. And if it seems that the old man eats a lot, shut up." Lun exclaimed in shock. How can Hao call himself an old man? Because it is rude and does not fit his ideal image. Zhao Ying said, Hao really does look like a wild kitten. So attractive. Liu Feng got angry and turned around saying that people don't understand that and they leave. Other girls left with him and asked Liu Feng not to be sad. Zhao Ying must have been fascinated by his looks, so she fell in love. He replied that he didn't care, and sooner or later she would see Hao's true face. He is rude and mean. Sitting at the table, Zhao Ying wished Hao a good appetite and advised him to eat his soup first. Hao asked Lun who it was. He said, "It's Zhao Ying from the parallel class and has been courting you for a long time." Zhao Ying is the leader of the 11G class basketball team, cultured and courting. Really excellent. Zhao Ying asked Lun how he liked the League of Heroes game she advised him last time. He replied that he tried it, but the game is very difficult. It's hard for a guy to play it after all. Hao asked them, "League of Heroes? Are you talking about that game where you have to go through a 5x5 tower?" Lun replied, "Yes, have you played it too? And last time you said you weren't interested in girls." Gamist Hao didn't think there was a League of Heroes game in this world, but it seems like all the players are girls. Zhao Ying said that even though there are no guys among the professional players, but they still play and asked Hao if he liked the game. He said it was okay and it was okay to play. He said he was full and invited Lun to go to class with him. Zhao Ying sighed disappointedly, wondering when Hao would pay attention to her coming to class. Hao began to think about Zhao Ying's words. She said that there are no guys in the ranking of the best players, then the best players among the guys, Warlord and Machine Gun in this world. I'll have to find time to watch the game broadcast sometime. After all, what does it mean to be a real man in this world? Hao noticed a girl sitting by the window and asked Lun, who was this lonely girl? Her name was Naiyaz Hua, a recent transfer student. Hao said she was very pretty. He noticed that Lun was looking at her suspiciously. He told him, "Do you really like her?" Hao took Lun by the arm and dragged him to her and said he should show initiative. But Lun resisted and said guys should behave more restrained. Hao said it was like that before. Today a guy said a guy did. Besides, you wouldn't leave a new classmate alone, would you? Hao and Lun went up to her and introduced themselves. She greeted them and said her name was Mingyu Hewitt. He noticed that all the girls in the world were attracted to him, but she was so distant. He had never seen anyone like her. Lun hesitantly greeted her and told him that they should leave soon because she did not want to talk to them. Hao asked her, "Do you not want to talk to us?" He replied surprised, "No, she just doesn't know what to say to them." He told his brother that she seemed to just have a little social disorder. He held out his hand to her and said to her, "Do you want to talk to people? If you do, let's be friends, I'll help you." She took his hand and said, "A real man wouldn't leave a helpless girl alone. It seems I have finally come close to accomplishing my mission." Hao was approached by his roommate and said, "The most handsome guy in school gets along with the transfer student?" He immediately thought of a good idea. He decided to befriend this chatterbox girl with the transferred girl. This way she will quickly get used to become a sociable girl. He asked Yuan to be friends with Yu Hua. She couldn't refuse him and agreed to show her strengths in communication. After school, Hao went home. He decided to take the path of a real man and listened only to rock. At that time his half-sister Qian Qin knocked at his door. She came into his room and asked what he was doing. He said he was listening to music. She wanted to hear what Hao was listening to, and she liked the genre of his music. She said he was indeed different from all men. Lying on the bed with her, he didn't know what to do, but at that time a silhouette of some girl appeared before his eyes, and he stopped. The stepsister got scared and asked if he was all right. Why had he gone so pale? He said he was anemic and would get better if he just rested. She hugged him and said men are so fragile and asked Hao to take care of his health. He asked her, "I am thinking of getting a haircut. Do you think it is worth it?" "Yes, my sister will always support Yao." Hao decided to change his image, so he went to a hairdresser's. He was greeted by the receptionist and told him, "You are so beautiful, I will find you the best master." He replied that he wasn't particularly delicate. One of the stylists said he could sit here. She asked him what was the best way to cut his hair. He said that in the style of the court, cut it as you can. You don't have to try too hard to make it beautiful. It was the first time she had heard such strange wishes. She thought how to cut his hair and seemed to understand him. If he said it wasn't pretty, then it should be the other way around. After a while he cut his hair. He looked adorable. Hao liked the haircut too. He asked how much he owed her. She said no money. "Let me use your photo to promote their barbershop." He said no and opted to paid. She gave him her card and said come to me next time. Maybe he would have some other requests and she would serve him well. He thought, oh damn celebrity. He's not used to this kind of treatment. Yet when he got home he looked in the mirror and said, this haircut didn't give me masculinity, but he looked very handsome. He changed his haircut. Now it's time to be reborn as a completely new man in this world. He went over to the closet. What is suitable in the closet? He was upset. All his clothes were women's colors. You must change all your clothes. After a while Dad called Hao to help him pack. He went downstairs and was shocked to see his son. His father asked him, what's wrong with his hair? Why was his hair so short? What hairdresser had disfigured it so? He promised to find them and tell them everything. Hao asked his father to calm down because it was his decision. His long hair made him too hot. Dad got angry, took his slipper in his hands and ran after his son. He was running away from him, but at that moment his stepsister walked into the room, and he ran into her. She told Dad to calm down, because the excitement is bad for health, and asked what happened. Daddy said that he cut his hair short without asking permission, and that he would never get married that way. Hao looked up and stared into her eyes. Qian Qin told Daddy that Hao looks fine. The haircut looks quality, and he warned her, so he has nothing to worry about. Daddy said she was spoiling him, and he should realize his mistake. After that he went to the kitchen to cook. Hao thanked Qian Qin for saving him from his furious father. She said she was his sister and should take care of him. She also offered to go to her room as she had something for him. When she entered the room, she said that when we moved in I was very busy, and I didn't have time to prepare a present for you. And now she will give him a present. She opened the box, and there were 2 crystals and asked him if he liked them. Hao answered, they are very expensive. Qian Qin said, whatever you want. Her sister will buy it for Yao. He was shocked by such a gift, and thought maybe he should buy a gift for his sister. After all, her gift is certainly not cheap, so it is worth it to return them, because he had no money, and the last money went to the hairdresser. Hao thought that maybe he should write a novel. He should think of a story first. The fee for the manuscript would be paid every day, so he could save money. It's hard to write about a powerful man and a great warrior, a city woman. It seems so. Will do. I'll try that. Or maybe I should combine my world with its peculiarities and jokes in the story. In that case I'll call the novel A Real Girl in a Patriarchal World. And so, being in school, he got a notification on his phone that said, congratulations. Your novel A Real Girl in a Patriarchal World has passed the registration for signing the contract. Please contact the editor at this number. Hao was glad, because the check went quickly. At this rate he will be able to get paid for daily chapter updates. Said Hao, I seem to have things worked out, but no matter what world, money is required everywhere. Okay, never mind, I just have to celebrate this. Now I'll get myself an ice cream for 1 yuan. I can afford it. Approaching this store Hao stopped, for it seemed very familiar to him. And he remembered that when he first went to school, in a past life, he was protected by Amei. She was in high school, she was so fragile, yet she stubbornly defended Hao's sister Amei. This is Uncle Jin's daughter from the store next door. Hao began to recall a dialogue with her. Zhang Hao, we live so close to each other. I want to invite you to tea. At that moment Hao thought to himself, this must be the first feeling of love. After that he would often visit this store until one day, Hao confessed his feelings to Amei. I like you. But she said, I'm sorry Hao, but I like muscular guys and you're too skinny. At that moment, Hao gave up on that feeling, and from that day on, he started pumping his muscles like crazy to become a muscular man who could protect Amei. But in this world it's different. This time she's bound to say yes. Walking into the store, he heard the dialogue, forever you're stuck at home instead of working hard. And how are you going to make money to bring home a man? Daddy, stop blowing my mind. I'm actually doing physical labor. Hao didn't understand who was swearing like that. Walking into the store, he thought Amei hadn't changed a bit, but as soon as she came out, he fell over in surprise. Amei was a pumped-up, muscular girl. She walked up to Hao and said, wow, you got a haircut, it really suits you. You're so handsome. Do you have something to do with me? He cried from what he saw. His first love had changed beyond recognition. She now looked like a big, pumped-up man. Hao sat down in his chair. Amei told him they hadn't seen each other in a while. Would you like some watermelon or something to drink? Don't be so shy. If you want something to eat, say so right away. He saw her muscles and said he didn't want anything. She put her hand on his shoulder, and the chair he was sitting on broke from her strength. Hao said he had to go, glad to talk. When he got home he hated this world. Such a fragile girl turned into a man. Need to sign up for Thai boxing. Buy a gift Qian Qin. So also deal with clothes. Why do you need money everywhere at this rate? The mystery of the bloody moon is impossible to get to. Suddenly Qian Qin said to him, how are you back? What are you talking about there? He didn't know his stepsister was home. Going into her room he saw her practicing yoga. She said, I'm already so tired of girls working out at the gym, and thought about the sports that men do. Qian Qin took his hand and suggested we do yoga together. After all, you shouldn't be too weak of a guy either. What if they start bullying you at school? Hao took these words as an insult. Am I weak in her eyes? He took her hand and said, "Sister, maybe in that case you try to arm wrestle with me?" Okay, the terms were that the loser would owe one wish to the winner. It's not just arm wrestling, it's the dignity of a man. Hao was surprised by the strength of his sister. In his past life, men went through fire and water for the survival and maintenance of the family. And here the opponent was a beautiful girl. Hao could not so easily lose to her. Praised him. He lasted long enough, not a bad result, but at this time, Hao's arm was already hurting badly. He wanted to give up already, but he still had the willpower that made him hold on. Qianqan said, "Okay, that's enough, or you could still hurt yourself," and put his arm down, thus defeating him. "Brother, you must be tired, you've worked so hard, your arm doesn't hurt." "I'm fine, sis, I lost to you, so what's your wish?" "I don't want anything, I just want to feel my head on my knee." "Stay head on your knees?" "Of course, what else would you expect her to do?" "No problem." Suddenly she put her head on Hao's lap and said, "Hey, just like I thought, your lap is super comfortable, I feel like I'm in heaven." He thought, "Are you the one who's going to lie on my lap?" She asked him if she could lie there a little longer. Hao answered that he could. "Lie as long as you want, you can lie there forever." Ariel man doesn't refuse anything. Some time passes, Hao sits at his computer. Suddenly he receives a message on his phone from Huan. They are going with Lun and Yuhua to go to the park. Very soon he will come to Lun, so be ready. After 10 minutes, Lun came to Hao's house with his little sister. He came out of the house, and his little sister hugged him. But Hao didn't know who it was and asked Lun, "Who was it?" Her name was Lin Lin. She is 6 years old. She is Lun's younger sister. Hao suggested they go to his house. He didn't want to go to the amusement park. He thought it would be boring there, but Lun said it wasn't boring there because a new attraction had just opened there, a ghost team, and shouldn't they help Ming Yuhua with her fear of society? Hao agreed but asked him to wait as he needed to change, and a real man doesn't back down on his words of help. He changed his clothes, and they went to the park where Huan and Ming Yuhua were already waiting for them. Huan said, "Hao, you are rarely seen in such clothes, so also with a new hairstyle, not only handsome, but also with a sense of style is in order." Yuhua also said that Hao is very handsome today. He praised her and said that she is good and already talking to people. "Okay, let's go to the ghost room already." They came to the house. It was scary and very gloomy. Lun got scared and said he was very scared. Maybe they should go back to the merry-go-round or the Ferris wheel. Hao replied, "Is it possible to have fun on such rides?" But no one supported him, and they decided to go to the ghost room. Calling him a coward, they decided to split into groups. Yuhua and Hao would go together and Lun, Huan and Lin would go the other way. They were girls and had to take care of the boys, but Lin wanted to go with Hao and made a scandal. But Hao told her to go with her brother because she was the bravest and Lun was the most timid, so they shouldn't worry about him because he would go with Yu Huad. The group of 3 went first, followed by Hao and Yuhua. When they entered the house they heard Huang shouting. Hao thought, could she be a coward too? After 10 minutes of wandering around the big house, Hao noticed that Yuhua had disappeared. She couldn't have just disappeared. Hao walked around the house looking for her. Suddenly he heard a sound from a closet. He opened it, and there was Yuhua sitting there. She said she just got lost and decided to hide. Third Hao held out his hand to her and said that she had nothing to fear when he was near. She took his hand and was embarrassed, for he was the first to be so kind to her. After a while the quest was over. It was Lun who suffered the most. He screamed the loudest and promised not to go back there again. Hao asked Yuhua if she liked the quest. She was silent for a long time and suddenly fell unconscious on Hao. They didn't know what to do. In a panic they started to call an ambulance, but Hao asked them not to panic. Maybe she just had a cold and suggested putting her on a bench. When they got to the bench, Lun said she needed CPR, but Hao said she was fine and told them to go to the store to get water and buy some sweets. While he sat with her and tried to bring her to consciousness, he sat down next to her and put her head on his lap and took her earlobe and started massaging it. Suddenly she woke up and looked into Hao's eyes and asked him why he was pinching her ears. Hao replied that you lost consciousness, and so he tried to make her wake up. She replied that she was very scared, but now so calm. Holding Hao's hand, he replied that they wouldn't go to the ghost room anymore and asked if she was in any pain. Yuhua said she was fine and just wanted to sleep and asked him not to leave. Hao flatteredly replied okay. He thought, I have met the calmest and most gentle girl in this world. It's just her character is a little strange. 10 minutes later everyone else came over. They bought her some water and asked if she was okay. She answered that she was fine. Huang suggested we go on having fun, but Hao said that enough for today, and it would be worth it to walk Yuhua home. She doesn't mind, right? She took his hand and said, Hao, let's go together. He agreed. Huang and everyone else didn't understand what was going on between them. They went to walk her home. As it turned out, she lived quite far away. They asked her how she was getting to school, if she was comfortable, but she just kept quiet the rest of the way. When they got to her house, they were surprised. The house was just huge and beautiful. They were met by the staff of the house near the entrance. The butler said to her mistress, "How could you sneak off to have fun? The master instructed you not to go so far away. It would make him angry." The friends were shocked. It turns out Yu Hua is a rich girl who lives in a rich mansion. The butler invited them in and apologized for their humble hospitality, for they are friends of the lad. The table was laid out for them, and they were served with yunmu tea, which they had brought just today, brewed with spring water and sweets, prepared by their chef. Then the butler and Yu Hua went to the second floor. As madam needed to change, they were left alone and were surprised that such a quiet and reserved girl had a personal servant and lived in a rich house. Hao thought, well, no way. I also did not expect that the new girl I help, a representative of the Golden Youth. At this time the butler said to her, "Madam, you went to such a distant place and also did not take a bodyguard. If the Lord knows, he will worry. Please do not do so again." She asked him if his parents had returned home. He replied that the master is back, but the mistress is still busy. Yu Hua said, "So why hasn't the father called her back?" The butler said that the master and mistress were busy overseas. They had prepared a gift for her and were on their way back. It was a model tank that she liked. 10 minutes later she went back down to her friends. They were surprised at how beautiful she looked. Hao asked her, "What's wrong with you?" She replied, "Daddy didn't call me again," he said. "And what does that mean?" She took his hand and said she wanted to give him something, and they went to her room. As they entered it, Hao was surprised as the room was very empty. He asked her, "You seemed sad after coming home. You said Daddy didn't call you. Does he treat you badly?" "Daddy loves me very much, but he's always busy. Mom's always busy too. I'm usually alone, and they're always busy with their own things. Mom is the mayor of the city, so she usually doesn't come home, and Dad is always on business trips. He makes a lot of money. The manager says they love me." He put his hand on her head and said, "If she gets lonely, you can call me, and I'll call Huang, Lin and Lun, because they are her friends." At this point she took him by the hand and told him to follow her. They went into a collection room where guns and tank models were hanging. She took one of her favorite weapons and gave it to Hao, but he could not accept such a gift, because if he came home with weapons his father would kill him. Hao told her that they could be friends without that thing. She hugged him gently and asked him to stay and be with her for life, and never leave her. After a while they were about to go home. Afterwards they said, "We'll have more fun next time." When they got home, Hao decided to categorically change his clothing style. He opened his closet and threw out all the clothes, and told Lun that tomorrow they were going to the mall to buy new clothes. As these clothes didn't fit them the next day, they went to the mall and took a long time to choose clothes, but they still matched their style. After shopping they got very hungry and went to a McDonald's. While ordering he noticed that someone was watching the nickname. All girls liked how Hao and Lun were dressed, because before them no one dressed like that. Kao said he was too handsome and decided to wear a cap so he wouldn't stand out, but it was too late. Hao's photo spread all over the internet. All the girls in town were fascinated by Hao's beauty. They actively discussed him and commented on the photo that a girl posted. She took a discreet photo under this photo, left a comment. Sister Lunya. She wrote that they went to the amusement park together. When Kao got home, he sat down on a chair and decided to take a rest. Suddenly Lun called him and told him that "You are a celebrity. One of the girls in a McDonald's took your picture," and this photo spread all over social networks. Hao did not understand how one photo could make him famous. He read the comments and did not understand how this could happen. But he thought that after a few days all will calm down and everything will go back to normal, and since he had nothing to do for the day, he decided to watch the cybersport streams. He thought, "It seems except for broadcasts in women's games nothing much has changed. It's okay if I play them." He had enough ability to start earning from streams. At this time, Kiankin's sister came home. He said he had worked so hard at the research institute that he didn't even know he was an internet star. Suddenly she lay down on him and started questioning, had no one molested him? He replied that she didn't have to worry because he could stand up for himself, but she said that Hao was too naive. Women are much more dangerous than he thinks, and Dad only has one son. And what would happen if anything happened to the only son? He promised to tell her if girls hit on him or if he goes out. At that moment, she took out her phone. Hao noticed she had his picture on her screen saved. The next day Hao went to school. On his way he saw that all the girls in town were looking for him. He tried to hide from them and went around through bushes and trees. He got a call from Lun and said he better not show up at school today because the girls knew he was in this school. Hao listened to him and he decided not to go to school and asked his sister for help to get him out of school and explain everything to his father. She agreed to help him. When he came back home, he decided to do some streaming as he had nothing else to do. But before that he decided to practice a little. The game in this world hasn't changed much, except that the characters have become girls after a bit of practice. He realized that his skill is at a high level, and in the evening he can start the stream after dinner. He went to his room, and Kian Kin looked at him with a puzzled look. After a while, he started the stream and started playing. There was a girl cyber athlete in the team against him, but he easily beat her. She couldn't believe it. She thought it was a girl playing under the boy's id, and also she suspected him of cheating. Many girls were interested in the stream, and the number of viewers began to grow, but no one believed it was a boy playing. But Hao turned on the microphone and proved that he was a boy, and they were surprised by his pleasant voice. He pointed the camera at the keyboard to prove that he did not use cheats. All viewers were confused. His hands were very beautiful. At that time a girl from one of the organizations got interested in him. She thought if they sign a contract with him, they'll make money with a shovel. At 10 p.m. Hao finished the stream, but the girls asked him not to turn off the stream and asked him to show them his face, but Hao did not want this, so he said goodbye to the audience and said that tomorrow at 8 p.m. will be another stream. And then Hao went to bed. The next day Hao met up with Lun and asked him how the school was doing. Were the crowds still waiting for him? Lun said that today it's not as crowded as it seemed, because yesterday you weren't there, so they didn't come today. I heard Lun ask him what he was doing these 2 days. Hao said he tried to stream, and it came out pretty cool. Lun was ecstatic and shouted out to the whole cafe. And this one girl heard unexpectedly Kao got a message on his phone, saying that yesterday he streamed and achieved the best results. He was asked to contact the manager to sign a contract. Lun supported him, and demanded that Hao sign a contract, because he is destined to be popular. When he becomes a star and makes lots of money, you can buy whatever you want. Hao said that he is just a high school student, and if blogging affects his studies, he will be killed at home. He is not known for anything, and will only become more popular if he becomes too popular. Hao was interested in this idea, and decided to give it a try. After this conversation they went home. Suddenly Hao noticed that someone is following them, but he did not want to scare Lun, and told him that he still have to go to the supermarket, so he will go alone. Hao was alone, and he stopped and said, "Hey you two, come out." Elredit, a girl, came out to him. She said he looked just like the picture she took and asked him if his sister was taking good care of him. Hao didn't understand who she was. Her friend replied Hao can't know her, since it is Liu who owns several of the nearby streets. Hao replied that he didn't know her, and told them to get out of here. The helper was shocked at his insolence, and said how dare he talk like that. But at that moment Liu hit her and told her that you can't be so rude to such a handsome boy. Liu wanted to kidnap him and have Hao become her husband.
Liu offered to be his keeper and she is ready to pay him 10,000 a month. Cal thought that this is just like in the movies when a lazy Alphonse is kept by a rich woman and he noticed that she looks very well, but he cannot agree to it, because he should become a real man in this world of beautiful girls. So Hao refused and said he had to go. Liu stopped him and said that at his age there was nothing wrong with him becoming a concubine, and if he was not satisfied with the price, let him just say so, and she was willing to give even more. At this point she pulled out a knife, and it would be a shame if she hurt his pretty face. Hao said, and let's check, because he didn't sign up for nothing in the Thai boxing section. He stabbed her in the handrail and then in the chest. She sat down on her knee and was surprised. She looked at Hao and he wanted to kick her in the face at that moment, but she defended herself in time. Hao told her not to bother him anymore, but Assistant Liu said, yes, he is pushing it. She ordered everyone to stand still and she would deal with him herself. She ran at him, swung her arm and wanted to hit Hao, but he dodged a hard blow. She got too close to him and he swung his knife, but she dodged the knife. Since girls in this world are strong, he knew he couldn't handle her and decided to call the police. Liu told him he was not only handsome, but also clever. The assistant said to her, can't she just let a boy like that go? Liu replied, stupid, it takes more patience to woo a handsome man, so what do you say, handsome? Let's end the conversation here, leave me alone, I haven't dropped the police call yet. She looked at him with a penetrating look and her assistant videotaped the whole thing and sent. At this time, a rising talent was discovered in one of the largest offices and reported to Mrs. Wei. The chairwoman told us to sign him, he was bound to be a popular star. She sat there and thought, since when is this my concern? Shouldn't that be handled by a talent hunter? The assistant said it was, but the chairwoman said to show you so you could talk to him in person. Isn't my mother still hungry for fresh meat and decided to find me a new daddy? the assistant showed her pictures of Hao. She saw him and realized that he might be a high school student. She told her to find out all the information about Hao, and the assistant has to give her a report in the evening. Yes, Mrs. Wei. Lu went to the window and said Zhang Hao means. The next day Hao was playing basketball with Luan on the school playground. Luan said to him, I think you have a cold, can we not play basketball? It's a girls' sport, why should we do that, let's go to the stands and cheer up the girls. I don't have a cold, I just sneezed once, besides, who said basketball was a women's sport? At that moment Hao threw the ball into the basketball net and hit it from a far distance and said that guys can also play basketball well. Luan walked up to Hua and told her if she had the feeling that Hao had somehow changed, don't you think? She replied that Hao was happy and that was all that mattered. Luan thought how cool Hao was, even Hua's icy heart could melt. At this time, Lu Feng and his girls were discussing Hao and those girls around him, because they don't even know his real identity. Lu Feng hated Hao. One girl was discreetly taking pictures of Hao, this was an order from Lu, but he noticed that someone was taking pictures of him, he looked in that direction and didn't notice anything. A girl came up to Hao and asked him, what's wrong with you? I imagined it. After the basketball game, Hao went home, he put his hand on Hua's head, said, see you tomorrow. Luan approached Hao, but he said to make him a little more manly. Suddenly he heard the sound of the camera and looked towards the bushes. Luan said to him, what's wrong with you, Hao? You're always looking somewhere today. Hao replied, nothing, just a persistent feeling that I'm being followed. Okay, you should probably go home now. Someone took a picture of me, Sister Qian Qin. He went to the tree and grabbed her shoulder and told her not to hide. The girl said out of fright that she did not do anything. Hao said for her to give him what she had in her hand and asked her, did she take a picture of it? She handed over the camera and said she only took one photo. But why did she take a picture of me secretly? That Sister Lu sent them a task to the group, she said to get your photos and to pay 200 yuan for each photo. Who's Sister Lu? Is she the one who's holding this neighborhood? Her name is Lu Xian, she's the boss of the neighborhood. I see, delete the photos and you can leave. Cal thought that the girl who wanted to kidnap him was too annoying and needed to think of a way to get rid of her. On the weekend Hao went to the mall to meet Luan, he told him that he would soon sign a contract with Douyu. They agreed to all the terms and were willing to give him money in advance, and since he now has money he can buy a gift. Luan asked, what other gift, do you have a girl you like? Why didn't you tell me about her? Hao replied that the gift would be for his sister, after dad got married the second time, now he has a sister, in case you didn't know. And what conditions will you put before Douyu? I will not show my face on the streams, I will only play the games I want, 2 hours of streaming every day, on weekends can go up to 5 hours, and if there will be any events, you need to notify him in advance. And most importantly, no sexualization. At this time Lu Feng was in the same mall, he said that Hao is the first hottie of their school, he is very arrogant and all the girls run after him, but in fact he has a relationship with a whole bunch of girls. His friends said they can't have men like that and looks are deceiving. Feng, maybe we should teach him a lesson and then go buy lipstick. Feng agreed and replied that he had just recently been given a good bonus and he could give them a lipstick each. Feng, I'll go too, let's make him cry and then film him, let everyone see his ugly face. Okay, but let's find a quieter place, there's bound to be some girls who want to save such a handsome man. Hao, let's see you embarrass yourself in front of everyone on the internet. After a while Hao bought sister's gift, Luan pleasantly surprised that Hao treats his sister so well that bought a belt for more than 1,000. Hao said that the money from the streaming platform would be charged every day, in addition, his sister gave him diamond earrings and he had to buy an expensive gift. Hao and Luan went to the bathroom, Feng and his friends followed them and said this was their chance. Feng told his friends to go to them and he would watch outside so no one would come in, but really Feng didn't want Hao to see him. They said okay. Expect good news from us. Hao and Luan were standing by the mirror, Hao said not to spray much perfume, the smell is too pungent. Those two friends came out to meet them. One of them wanted to purposely bump into Hao, but he deftly dodged. Hao grabbed him by the scruff and asked what he was doing. The second friend decided to step in for him and said, "Are you blind or what? You almost hit my friend." Moon said, "Maybe you're blind, on the contrary your friend almost hit my friend." He grabbed at Moon's shirt and said, "Who are you calling blind?" Hao grabbed his arm and said, "The culprit probably knows himself that he is wrong, and you dared to touch my friend. Are you sick of living?" They began to argue who was right and who was wrong, but at some point Hao got tired of this chatter and decided to just leave, but his enemy decided not to let him go just like that and spat at Hao. Hao could not tolerate such a nasty act in his direction and punched him. The second friend watched this and said, "What a scoundrel, he also hits people." Luan said, "So you started it," and started arguing again. He told them if they hit him on purpose next time, he would break their legs. One of the battered men didn't want to take this abuse, so Hao punched him in the face and decided to call his girlfriend. Hao and Luan came out of the mall and were met by the girlfriend of the battered guy. She came up to Hao and said, "Are you the jerk who beat up my boyfriend?" Feng wanted to sneak out again and told everyone he had to pee. His friend told him to come back to their place after the toilet to take a picture of Hao's ugly beaten face. But Feng had another plan. He wanted to wait until Hao and Qi argued, at which point Feng would take a picture of them and label it Hao's lover and send it to their school forum, and the shame for Hao would be assured. "Wifey, he hit me. Are they at it again? Actually, you're the one who started the confrontation and you spit on Hao. If anyone has anything to say, speak up. I'm in a hurry. Love makes the world a better place." She fell in love with Hao at first sight. "Hitting people is bad, please apologize to my boyfriend, you're a reasonable boy, just apologize and that will be the end of it." She was puzzled. Why is she asking him to apologize? She was supposed to beat Hao. "You want me to beat up a man? You just liked him, right? The moment you saw him, your eyes changed dramatically, and I'm your boyfriend. Hey, take your personal business elsewhere. I'll go." But Qi was not happy with the outcome and told Hao to stop. Hao told him that he will report them to the police and if they pissed him off again, he will beat them so badly that his own mother would not know. A girl came up to Ha and said there had been a misunderstanding and asked for his phone number. She would drop him some money as moral compensation. Feng videotaped the whole thing and decided to edit the video to make it look as if Hao was her lover, shaming Hao in front of the entire town. Suddenly a Rolls-Royce pulled up to the mall. The assistant opened the door. A charming girl got out of the car. "This is the same Mrs. Wei. They came to conduct an inspection in one of the mall to trace the revenue for the second quarter." Wei couldn't believe it. "Is that Hao?" At that moment a crowd of people approached Feng from behind. It was Lu. She asked him, "What is he filming there?" Feng was afraid of her and said it was nothing. She took his phone and saw the video. Lu asked him, "Aren't you afraid of death, filming my man with another woman?" She grabbed him by the neck. He begged her not to touch him. Feng was shocked. Does Hao know the local boss of the area? Lu decided to drag Feng to Hao. He walked up to him and told him, "Here we meet again. We haven't seen each other for 2 days. Do you know how much I missed you?" Luan didn't understand what was going on here. Who was this girl? But Hao did not want to find out. He silently turned around and was about to leave. Lu asked not to hurry, because she found the rat who was secretly filming him. At that moment she kicked Feng in the back and said that she brought him here, now he can do what he wants with him. Hao asked her what she wanted him to do. Lu fixed her hair, took a bouquet of roses in her hands and confessed her feelings to him. She offered him to be her boyfriend. Hao stood puzzled. "If you become my boyfriend, you get everything you want." Hao answered her that he didn't like her, so he couldn't become her boyfriend. "If that's all, I'll go." Lu apologized to him for rushing, but could he at least take her flowers? Hao said he won't take her flowers and he won't be her boyfriend because earlier she threatened him with a knife and they fought, so they are even. From now on let's pretend we don't know each other. Lu asked the helpers to take away any unnecessary people so they wouldn't disturb the conversation. Luan asked her if she would kill them to get rid of the witnesses. "No, of course not, and you are Hao's friend, isn't your name Luan?" Hao asked her how she knew the names of his friends. Wasn't she looking for information about him? She's threatening me, using Lin and Luan. Okay, maybe I was wrong, not you or me. Tell me, what do you want? Lu walked up to him and said, since the guy himself suggests that, I'll concede to you, how about you come with me to the bar and have another drink? Hao agreed and asked where and at what time to approach him. 7 o'clock tonight, Hoyan Street, Bar Chansey, I'll be waiting for you. I promise I'll be on time. After that conversation, Hao and Luan went home. Luan told him that that girl seemed to be from the mafia, plus they had tattoos on their bodies. Are you sure you want to go to a bar with her? Hao told him if he said no she would find a way to get them anyway. He is going to the bar with her to test the ground and he has nothing to worry about as Hao goes to Thai boxing and she won't do anything to him. On the contrary, Luan should have been more careful for a few days. Luan hugged Hao and cried. He said he did not want Hao to die. At that moment an unfamiliar woman approached them. She told Hao that Principal Wei invited him to a meeting. If he did not mind he should follow her. Hao didn't understand what was happening today. Will it ever end? He told her he was against it, and who is Principal Wei? All of Mrs. Wei's assistants and employees all looked at Hao intently. After that Hao couldn't refuse and said, okay, show me where to go. He asked Luan to go home. If anything he will call him. Hao arrived at their office. He entered there and went up to the floor to the director. When Hao entered there he was shocked. There was just a crushing aura coming from this woman. Her name was Feng Hong. She is the CEO of Wei Nan Media Group. She stood up from her chair and walked over to him. She said, not a bad face, they're rare in the market. Sign this contract and I'll make you famous. Hao read the documents and said, Director Wei, there seems to be a misunderstanding. I'm not going to become a star, so I'm not interested in our cooperation. I have to go, goodbye. The assistant grabbed him by the shoulder and said, you ungrateful high school student, Principal Wei called you personally for a talk. But Hao deftly grabbed her arm and said he was not interested and dismissed her. Wei thought, is he familiar with martial arts? And suddenly attacked him. He dodged her punch and wanted to hit her back in the chest area, but she defended herself and grabbed his arm and said, a young kid who knows kung fu? And that's a nice bonus. Hao replied, thank you for the praise, Director Wei, however I cannot accept your offer. Don't turn me down. I always get what I want. I'll give you time to think. Show him in. There is Director Wei. Hao thought, that woman, she's not easy to resist. He returned home in the evening, and there was a pen dictaphone, a pocket knife, and anti-pepper spray on the table. After that he picked up the phone and wrote, if I do not call you tonight 8:30 immediately call the police tonight. Need to finally delineate the relationship with Lu Xin. After a while he went to the appointed bar. Entering the bar he met a girl. She said that our boss is waiting for you. He said to show where to go. The girl led him to Lu. He said, I agreed to come here to settle everything and I do not want any business with you. Let's pretend that we never met at all. I do not know you, you do not know me, everyone is happy. She said it would be difficult to implement. Well, let's do it this way. She took the glass in her hands and gave it to Hao. You knew that I would be against it. Will continue to resist. I just called the police. And what will you tell them? I'm just with the man you like. Is it forbidden? The assistant said, Sis Lu, not embarrassed in front of him. We have his photos and videos of him. If he wants to splash, we will send them to the internet, so be nice. She looked at Hao and said, be nice to Sis Lu. These two sisters I see the first time, such confident people. Well, I already turned on my recorder. She looked at him and said, you know, but she's right. Hao said, and you've already got it. Are you determined to stab me in case you refuse to? At this point, Hao put his hands in his pocket and pulled out a pepper spray and began spraying it on them. The girl was very surprised and the pepper spray made her start crying. She didn't understand what was going on. Hao came up to her with a knife and put the knife to her neck. She asked to let go of her awkward movement and it could lead to someone's death. Lu looked up and said, oh, you boy, look how brave. He said that you shouldn't send anyone away, otherwise I am not responsible for myself. You won't be happy with the police. Hao walked to the exit. I threw the girl away. Lu was surprised by his actions and her interest in him increased. Lu Hao's sister sent me a text message that he recorded all of your words on the recorder. He said if you pester him or his loved ones, the tape will go to the police and the fight will not be for life but to death. Ah, you bastard, how dare you. At this time, Assistant Principal Wei was watching. She called Principal Wei and said that Hao was okay. Went to school, he thought, since Lu threatened him 3 days past, but it was of no use. If it doesn't help, then have to think of something else. At this time his classmates were discussing something. They said that someone got rid of Sister Lu and a new boss will come to the Flame tonight. So strange, why change the boss so suddenly? Because there was no prerequisite saying that reported a severe bullying in Feng Hong Media Group. Hao thought Feng Hong Media Group personnel changes something familiar. At this moment he remembered and said, is not it Director Wei's company? But what kind of connection between the director and Lu Xian? After school, Ha came home. His sister met him there. She told him to sit down to eat since she made the food today. He asked her, where are daddy and auntie? Are you home alone? My sister said that they were busy at work and that they wouldn't be home today. So it's just me and my sister at home alone. Unmarried girl and a guy with no wife. At this point she pointed her finger and said, what are you thinking about? No, nothing, let's eat. What am I thinking about? This is my sister, even though there is no blood relationship between us. After dinner his sister told him that he should do his homework because in the evening he has a live stream, and she will do the dishes herself. He asked if she really needed his help. She took his hand and said that it was okay, she will not tolerate if his beautiful hands get dirty. He was surprised. His sister is so kind and thrifty, not a girl but a dream. In the past world I only dreamt of such a girl. I wish she was my sister. In the evening Hao started a live stream. He told his subscribers that the stream will last 2 hours and today he will play a ranked game. After 2 hours his half-sister came to his room and told him it's been 2 hours and he should rest. He replied that he had already finished the stream. He asked him if he was tired. Come here, I'll give you a massage. Hao said he was fine. She had just finished her chores and she should rest too. She took his hand and told him he was so thoughtful and suggested we rest together. Hao replied that their family, it's natural to take care of each other. Family? At this point she cried. Hao was surprised and asked, what is wrong with you? Why are you crying? Don't they say women don't cry? Didn't I say something offensive? Sis just too happy, so unwittingly cried. Become a family for Hao and be with you together. I'm just delighted. At this moment, Hao thought about the fact that he moved to another world and was able to learn a lot that he was deprived in the former world, at least was able to get a full family. He took Qin's hand and thought, if I stay in this world, I will definitely protect all family members and make them happy. Sister Qin, a long life awaits us and our days will be even happier. She was shocked by his words. Actually, I'm a real woman and usually I don't cry, but now I cried in front of my little brother. I'm so ashamed. Sis, thank you for accepting me as a real family member. She looked at him and thought, we were meant to be family to begin with. They lay down on the bed and he asked her if they should sleep in the same bed. She said mom and dad weren't home tonight and she didn't want him to be scared that night. Besides, my sister has always wanted to have a heart-to-heart talk with you. He asked her what he wanted to talk to him about. He was embarrassed because his sister's body was so sexy. Qin asked him, what kind of women did he like? Kind and gentle, affectionate girls. So that's the type you like. Are there any classmates like that at school? Hao thought of Yu Hua, but she was rather plain. Qin clarified him, so there are no such girls. You are just learning. Falling in love early is also bad. Hao is too handsome a man, that's why sister is worried about you. He had already begun to fall asleep and said that she has nothing to worry about, he is strong. In the morning he woke up and there was no one in bed. He called out, sis, are you home? He went into her room and she wasn't there. He thought after all it was her day off. Did she have to go to the lab today? Hao walked over to Sister Qin's bookcase. It must be the opposite in this world. Novels are written for men. Suddenly he noticed some book. He picked it up. He looked at a few pages and was surprised. How can a girl read such indecent books? So these are the feelings of Sister Qianqing. It can't be, she cried yesterday because I called her family. Suddenly something happened to Hao, he felt very sick, in front of his eyes appeared some girl who had already appeared a few months ago. Again, what is it? In the evening Hao finished the stream earlier than usual, as he was not feeling well. The book keeps going around in his head there, she can't really harbor such feelings for her brother, can she? And that picture that appeared before my eyes out of the blue, I still can't remember what it was. The channel stands in one place, the number of likes and subscribers does not grow, it is not so easy to be a blogger. The next 3 days he was sent a proposal for raising the activity, because his channel was not stable and stood still, he did not decide to use it for a long time, but as soon as he opened examples for raising the activity on the channel, he was shocked. There was a dance in short tight shorts in the offer. And a few other examples, sweat-drenched, handsome jock and abs cubes, but Hao wasn't going to stream that. On the third day, the streaming platform administration scheduled a private meeting with Hao. Luan was surprised that the administration itself came to a private meeting with Hao. Going into the coffee house, they were met by Sun Qing, she is Hao's channel administrator. She said he could call her sister Sun. Hao introduced his friend Moon, he came with him today for support. Hao said he had looked at all 3 options but none of them suited him. Sun said she watches all his streams and knows his character, so the first 2 options are not considered, but about the third one she suggested to think carefully, because the effect could be overwhelming. He didn't understand how. She looked at him with a penetrating look. Suddenly she stood up and put her hand on his neck and said, "Judging by your well-developed chest, you're not indifferent to sports, are you? You don't even have to show your face and you don't have to do anything abstract, your body will be more convincing than words. In addition, at the same time he can stream and pump his body, how about that?" Luan said, Hao has some truth in her words. Hao thought, in principle if I train in a mask, there is nothing wrong with it, also if the viewings become a mass, it may interest other men to do sports, which may affect the opinion of women on the men of this world. In the end Cao agreed to host a workout stream, but the streams will be done while wearing a mask. When he came home he told his dad about it and he wasn't happy and said he didn't agree with it. So we're adults now and we can do whatever we want. I already let you do too much. And you already decided to become a fitness blogger, you look at all these shameless people, I will not allow my son to stream his workouts. Hao told him, because he himself always says that I'm weak, and if he starts working out and build up his muscles, this problem will immediately be solved. At this point his sister came up to them and said, "Uncle, don't be angry with him, I think Hao has a point. Uncle, let Hao try it and I'll supervise it. If he does anything wrong, I'll turn off the stream right away. Keep an eye on him, oh my son, not a day without worrying about him." "Thank you, Sister Qianqing. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been able to talk him out of it. Don't thank me, I am your sister and I really want to be on your stream." In the evening he started a training stream, he told me how to train properly. That day the channel activity and rates began to grow rapidly. I knew it, earlier on this platform do not run the streamers of this format yet, still waiting for success. At this time, Hao was training hard and girls were writing to him. But Sister Qianqing was out of her mind with jealousy and didn't know what to do. But she decided to restrain herself because she's not that little girl anymore. Otherwise, Hao would drift farther and farther away from me. After half an hour Hao finished the stream, he thanked everyone for the gifts and in an hour he will turn on the game stream. After he finished the stream, his sister came up to him and asked him if he was okay. "Maybe that's enough streaming for today, because your sister is worried about you." Hao says it's okay, he works out every day and 30 minutes of sports is easy for him. "Okay, go take a shower or you'll catch a cold." Sister Qianqing was interrupting me. What am I thinking? Sis treats me so well and I have such an opinion of her. At night Hao went to bed, but suddenly his half-sister came into his room, she came to him and thought, "Hao, if we had not broken up then." She began to remember snippets from her childhood, when they were not yet half-siblings. She tilted her head to his face and moved closer and closer. Hao through sleep said, "Go away." He moved even closer, and one moment she grayed next to him. Moments from childhood. Don't you have any friends either? Then play with me. She hit some girls. Hao was scared of her and told her she was scary, and he was scared of her. She came up to him and grabbed his shirt and told him, "We promised we would be together. You can't be scared of me. Let's go to my house." In the morning, Hao woke up with a bad headache and thought I was dreaming. Okay, it's Monday, I have to get up or I'll be late for school. Suddenly he heard a sound. He turned his head and strongly wondered why Sister Qianqin was sleeping in the same bed with him. At this point she woke up and said to him, "Good morning, Hao, get up, you have to go to school." "Good morning, how did you end up in my bed?" "Yesterday I came to see if you'd thrown the blanket back, but you were sleeping so nicely so I couldn't help myself." "Sis, let me go wash up first or I'll be late." "Come on, wait, I'll buy you a new car and drive you to school in it." Then he went to school. On his phone he was watching a new Taekwondo section. Suddenly Yu Hua came up to him and told him that she was trained in it. "Do you know Taekwondo, and since when do you learn it?" She said that she had been studying since junior high school and that she also practiced wrestling. Hao asked if she liked the sport and why he liked weapons. "My grandmother was in the military. I want to be in the military to protect my family and country. I've been trained by everyone since I was a baby, so my military future is determined." "That's right. Please teach me some wrestling tricks." "It's still early, we can go to the playground. There's an abandoned warehouse where no one goes. Just the two of us." "Then I agree." They went to an abandoned warehouse. Hao offered to hit him to evaluate her skills. At this point she ran at him. He was surprised at her speed. She hit and he did not understand how it happened. She sat down on a chair and told him he lost. "Yours is taken." "Then can I have my reward?" "Reward?" Suddenly she kissed him. Hao didn't know what to do, but he didn't even mind. His reaction was positive. She asked him, did he like it? Hao didn't know what to say to her because he was excited. "Yu Hua, let's stand up first. I don't feel comfortable talking in this position." "Why did you suddenly kiss me? Did you want to?" "Yes, I wanted to do it myself. Huang Yuan sent me videos, that's how I learned how to kiss." He asked her to show him the videos. She gave him her phone. He was shocked by those videos. "How, was I wrong? I think to say that guys and girls don't communicate that way is not true. I mean, I see that in normal life we can't communicate that way. Next time don't listen to her, just ask me." "How, when will we be able to communicate like this, just like just now? What did you call it?" "No matter what you call it, classmates and just friends can't do that. Remember, only couples do that. You can't just kiss me and I don't do that either. Okay, back to school. What if you and I became a couple? Do you know what it means to be a couple? Then we'll talk about it after I find out." After that they went to school. Hao went with Luan and Hua asked him if they could talk like this now. No. And now, no. Luan asked Hao, what does Hua want from him? Today she only glimpses next to you. Don't ask. It's all the fault of beauty, as always. At this time Lu Feng was watching this and thought, Mingyu Hua is from a wealthy family and usually doesn't really make contact with outsiders, but she is so fond of Hao. Suddenly an unfamiliar girl came up to Hao and said hello to him. He greeted her and asked, "Who are you?" Hao followed this girl. Lu Feng caught the moment and decided to take a picture of him. "Last time you acted differently, I didn't even recognize you. Tell me, what do you want?" "That was Feng Hong Media Group General Manager's secretary. I was rude to you last time. I'm sorry. I personally wanted to apologize for my behavior, but I also came here because the general manager wants to see you." "I don't want to see her, no matter how many times she sends her people to me. I don't want to waste other people's time. Cao, I'm a man of servitude. If I don't follow her orders, she obviously won't pat me on the head. Let's make a deal, just call and talk to her on my phone." Hao thought, better not to oppose this principle. Last time I could not overpower her. He called and told her that your secretary said you want to meet me. Director Wei, nothing can happen between us, I won't change my mind. You must be a very busy person, no need to waste your time on me. How, do you want to become as powerful as women? Hao was silent. I have seen your look very often, the look of someone who hates to be judged as a weak man. And last time I saw that look in your eyes. Cao, I'm not just a person who provides for celebrities, I'm giving you time to think it over and I'm waiting for your answer. Hao thought, this woman, she knows what to push, I can't hide from her forever, I have to meet her. So you're a man who hates being mistaken for weak. The next day Sister Qianqin gave Hao a ride in her car, she told him his hair is tangled, okay go hurry to school and I'll wait until you enter the gate, okay. At lunchtime, Hao went to the cafeteria, his classmates told him not to look in his direction. They were discussing him, what a shame, who would have thought that Hao was a different person, and before he was the idol of all the girls, what an idol, just read what was published in the forum, he's not only a lover, he also has several rich mothers. But the forum was heated up and all the girls were furiously discussing the publication. Hao, I think there's something going on here. Yeah, I noticed. It started yesterday, for some reason everyone is trying to keep out of our sight. What's going on? After some time in class was collecting homework, one of the guys came up to Hao and said, you have not handed in your homework, you probably often busy at night, so you did not have time to write homework. Exactly, you were born handsome, I bet women can provide for you, you don't even need to go to university. Hao answered him, you should have told him right away that you're jealous of me, why are you talking so ambiguously? Do I sound ambiguous? You have rich moms and pretend to have nothing to do with it, you're not even ashamed to go to school. Provide? What did you say? How dare you embarrass Hao? It's not me who's embarrassing him, go to the school forum and see what's happening there the last couple of days, he is always seen near the school in the company of women, even pictures are available. Luan went to the forum and was shocked, in the comments Hao was called a public transport. At this point, a teacher came into the classroom and told Hao to go to her office. Do you know what's going on in the school forum right now? I just found out. This incident is bad for our school, I hope you come to your senses, you can't control these women in our society. Stop it. Teacher, I don't want to think about it, it's not necessary. I am not provided for by any women, and my sister drives me to school, and the woman friend is just an aunt I met on business, if you don't believe me I will call my sister to come to school. However, the one who wrote this post on the forum wants to lie to me, I hope the teacher can figure out who it is. Wait a bit, my sister should be here now. Hello, I'm Sister Hao. Hello, so that's how it is. After Qianqin's sister entered the classroom, the classmates ran up to the door and began to eavesdrop on their conversation. They were surprised who this beautiful girl, they heard it was Hao's sister, they realized that the forum wrote nonsense and the rumors going around the school are fake. The sister apologized to Hao for getting him in this situation because of her, she asked if she should explain in front of his classmates. Hao replied that there was no need and he would take care of it himself. He left the class, and his roommate was waiting for him. As soon as you left, Luan found out, he sent me a text message saying it was Lu Feng's fault. Hao asked her, did he go alone? Why hasn't he come back yet? At that time, Luan was in the school bathroom, they poured milk on him and locked him in there, he was very cold and angry and promised to tell his teacher as soon as he got out of there. Hao, Yuhua, and Huang looked for Luan all over the school and asked their classmates where they had last seen him. Hao asked them if they were able to find out anything. Yuhua said she had information that third-grade students had seen him near the bathroom behind the sports field, and there were Lu Feng and other students there as well. Hao was furious when he heard Lu Feng's name again. Alright, let's go over there, that Lu Feng is a bully, whatever trouble Luan might get into. Luan heard someone open the bathroom door and started shouting and asked for help so that someone would open the door for him. Hao came to his door and asked, Luan, is that you? Did someone lock you in the bathroom? Hao, I'm so glad to hear from you, you finally made it, I was afraid I was locked in here forever, that creep Lu Feng did this. Hao asked him to step away from the door as Yuhua needed to kick the door open. She swung around and broke the school toilet door with incredible force. Everyone was shocked by Yuhua's strength. Hao walked up to Luan and asked what happened to him and who locked him in here. Luan replied that not only was he locked in here, he was also poured milk. Now I have to tell everything to the teacher. Hao said, let's leave the teacher out of it for now, I'll avenge you when the lessons are over. After class, Yuhua twisted Lu Feng. He said, How not only are you leading an immoral life, but also traumatizing the students, I will tell the teachers and you will be expelled from this school. You better worry about yourself. My sister went to school and refuted everything you wrote in that publication. Also, there is a student here who has actually faced bullying from you. Don't you know there is a camera in the bathroom behind the gymnasium? Now I give you two choices. Either you voluntarily confess to slandering me on the forum and apologize to Luan and I'll videotape the whole thing, or tomorrow I'll show the teacher the security camera, which you know is not the same thing, so you choose. Lu Feng thought, if he confessed himself, the teacher could forgive him, but if the teacher found out from others, he would be expelled from school. Lu Feng agreed to apologize to everyone and have it videotaped. Hao looked at him and said if he did something like that again, he would destroy him. They videotaped his apology. Lu Feng went home upset. Luan asked Hao, will Lu Feng really stop there? What if he continues to cause trouble? Hao replied that he wouldn't keep doing it, he would give the video to his teacher and he would be severely reprimanded, and if it happened again, it would be put on his personnel file. Late at night Hao and Yuhua went home. Suddenly he remembered Principal Wei. Yuhua, have you heard of a woman named Wei Nan? I have. She's the head of the Wei family, a very powerful woman. How about comparing her to your family? I don't know, maybe on the same level. Hao thought, so Lady Wei is not so simple. If we have to meet, then I'll meet her tomorrow. That same night at Wei Nan's house. She was sitting at the table, not in the mood. 3 days had passed since their last conversation and Hao still hadn't contacted her. She found herself thinking that all she could think about was him. At that moment someone knocked on her door and she told him to come in. The secretary came in. She said Director Wang wanted to meet her to talk about Qingxi right away. She was ready to talk and had the car ready. At this time Hao and his stepsister went to the restaurant. Hao was surprised by the luxury. Did you have to come to such a rich establishment just to have a bite to eat before going to bed? Cow, you got hurt at school today, so sis invited you here for a meal. Thank you sis, Hao thought she was so kind. She looked at him and told him not to be shy and invited him into the restaurant. As he walked into the restaurant he saw many rich and successful people. He was surprised to see so many people in the restaurant at such a late hour. Suddenly he saw a familiar silhouette. He turned around and thought, is it just me or did I just see Wei Nian? Hao and Qianqin sat down at the table. She told him to order whatever he wanted. Sis, can I have a drink? I'm already quite old, Hao thought to himself, since he had been in this world, he had never tasted alcohol before. Qianqin said, of course you can, just today mom and dad won't be home, so you can relax a little. Sis will pour you a drink. Hao drank and was happy. He remembered that he used to be a drunkard. His stepsister told him not to drink on an empty stomach, it's bad for his stomach, and suggested he eat something. He happily drank and ate a lot of alcohol and food. Hao noticed that the alcohol made him dizzy. Qianqin asked him, was he drunk? He got up from the table and said he was fine and went to the bathroom. When he got to the toilet, he didn't understand how he got drunk so quickly. It wasn't like that before. Hao didn't realize he'd confused the stalls and entered the ladies' room. He went to the sink and washed his face with cold water. Suddenly he saw a woman's silhouette beside him. Hao looked at the girl and said hello. At that moment he was very surprised to see her. It was Mrs. Wei. They met each other's eyes and did not know what to say. Hao wondered what she was doing in the men's room. Wei looked at him and told him in a calm voice that it was the ladies' room. He turned around and saw the girl starting to go into the bathroom. At the last moment Hao went into the stall and locked himself in. Wei said, It's understandable why he decided to hide, but why does she have to hide with him? Hao casually took her hand and pulled her into the stall. I've had a few drinks and something alcohol has affected my head. Wei took his hand and leaned against the door. The girls who were standing in the bathroom wondered, what's making that noise? You know what a guy and a girl do in the bathroom. At that moment, Hao was shocked, he didn't know what was going on. She told him, don't you understand? You're the one who lied to me, the defenseless man. You never called me. I was waiting for your phone call. He was surprised at her words. Hao replied that he was going to meet her tomorrow, who already knew that he would meet her tonight. Wei took him by the chin and said she changed her mind, now he doesn't have to sign a contract with Feng Hong Group, now he has to be her man. Hao replied, what's with the overbearing principal syndrome? Isn't this the second time we're seeing each other? The truth is, the last person who said that to me has disappeared without a trace. You mean Lu Exayan? She broke our agreement, my men are the ones who detained her. Hao asked, what was the connection between them? If Lu Exayan broke our agreement, why didn't she turn her over to the police? Okay, never mind, there's no one outside, let me go. What a tricky kid, no, I have to get your answer today. At the last moment Hao tickled Miss Wei and she let him go. She exclaimed, what is he doing? Hao happily ran away from her, he thought, even the bossy principal is afraid of tickling. Was I not disgusted when she touched me? As he came out of the bathroom he saw Qian Qin, she came up to him and asked him where he had been gone so long. Are you sick? No, I'm just drunk. She said they should go home and he should rest. Hao and Qian Qin came home, Hao was lying on the bed, Qian Qin's stepsister came over and brought him some food and told him he should drink this to sober up. She went over to him and thought, Hao is so cute when he's drunk. I have to kiss him, I have to kiss him, because whatever happens, sooner or later we'll be together. She held his hands and kept kissing him, she kissed him on the neck and at that moment Hao woke up, he didn't understand what was happening, he thought that all he was seeing now was a dream. He took her by the waist and threw her onto his back. Qian Qin looked at him brightly, she was content. At this time Hao was arguing with himself in his head, the devil was telling him that he was now in the arms of a beauty, but it was just a dream, so why not mess around? Angel said no, Qian Qin is his half-sister, besides she is good to him, you can't do that to her. But the devil insisted and said it was just a dream and no one would know. The angel asked me to stop. Qian Qin continued to look at him sweetly, he raised his head and kissed her forehead. Hao said, even if it is just a dream, a real man should not take advantage of the situation, having said these words he fell asleep. She asked in surprise, Hao, did you fall asleep? She hugged him happily. Qian Qin got up from the bed and covered him. At this moment Zhao Ying suddenly called him, Qian Qin picked up the phone because of jealousy. Zhao Ying said, hello. Hao, you finally picked up the phone, you are so distant from me at school, I'm too annoying for you, right? I really like you. Qian Qin interrupted her and said, I'm Hao's sister and you must be Zhao Ying, right? I know you've been stalking Hao for 2 years, I just wanted to talk to you, I'm not satisfied with this state of affairs, and Hao is a high school student, he has no time for love affairs. I hope you stop now and stop giving him trouble, goodbye. Qian Qin hung up the phone and thought looking at Hao, when will you belong only to me? She kissed his forehead and said, it's okay, this time sister will not be in a hurry, I will control myself. Hao woke up in the morning, his condition was very bad and his body hurt as if he had been unloading wagons all night. He went to the mirror and began to remember the chronology of yesterday's events, he remembered that he had dinner with his sister and then he had a dream. But in the reflection he saw hickeys on his neck, suddenly his sister came up to him and said, Hao, are you awake? He wondered if yesterday was not a dream. Qian Qin told him, apparently he's allergic to alcohol. He breathed a sigh of relief as he thought it was hickeys. She went over to him and looked at them, as she is a doctor by profession, she said it was definitely an allergy. Sis is a professional, so don't worry, hurry up and brush your teeth and come down for breakfast or you'll be late for school. Hao thought about it. Sis said it's an allergic reaction, but why do I have such a strange feeling? After breakfast Hao went to school. Luan asked him why he wore clothes with a high collar. Aren't you hot? Hao answered pompously that men are not afraid of the heat, but in fact he was very hot and it was because of the red spots on his neck. Suddenly 3 guys came up to them. They said, "Are you Hao? I'm warning you, stay away from Zhao. She likes the most handsome guy in our school." Hao calmly told him to let him go. He asked, what will happen to him if he doesn't let him go? Hao grabbed him by the shirt and threw him a few feet away. He fell on his shoulder. He asked for Mr. Lin's help, because Hao's strength is superior to that of ordinary girls. Lin Jun introduced himself and said that Hao did not like Xiaoying herself for nothing. Hao and Luan wondered if it was Lin Jun from the basketball team led by Xiaoying. "Well, hello, I don't have time to chat here with you, keep your servants to yourself, and also, if you are so worried about Xiaoying, then go to her yourself, don't bother other people." "Is that so?" "I got it, Mr. Hao, the school's most handsome man, see you later." Hao and Luan went on their way. On the way they met Yu Hua. She said she could deal with those guys, just ask. He said no need, it's better to teach me how to wrestle, and men can take care of themselves too. Moon asked, "Wrestling? What are you doing after school with Yu Hua? I'll go with you too, I don't want to be a wimp who can only tie up a chicken." At this time Mrs. Wei was bathing in her own pool at the villa and was about to finish her bathing. An assistant came up to Mrs. Wei and handed her a dry towel. Madame Wei couldn't forget Hao. As soon as she closed her eyes she thought of him. She ordered her assistant to bring Hao to her villa after the class. At this time, Hao, Luan, and Yu Hua were at the school warehouse. They wanted to start training for basic strength, since Hao was still weak. "I've been wanting to build up my 8 abs and regain my former strength for a long time." "How, you mean these abs?" "Yu Hua, that's too much, I haven't seen anything." "Oh, but you really have them. You look so thin, but I didn't expect your abs to be so prominent." "I need more time to work out like that." "Hey, sweet couple, this one's groping her and she doesn't even mind," said Moon. "Why didn't you stop me? I just showed you what you need." "How, she's so weird, she does everything you don't tell her, why don't you try asking for something else?" "It's true, she's never said no to me, I have to try." "How much money do you have now? Give it to me." Luan was shocked. How could Hao ask her that? Yu Hua emptied her pockets and took out all the money. She said the rest was in the account on the phone. She was about to say the password, but Luan stopped her just in time and said there was no need to say the password and the money was not needed either. Hao asked her why she does whatever he tells her to do. She replied that they are friends and friends don't say no to each other. "No, Yu Hua, friendship is not about that, friends should be equal partners, you have to determine for yourself, if you don't want to do something, you don't have to do it." She replied that she understood him. Hao suggested we finish training for today and continue tomorrow after school. Hao was walking home after training. He was glad the training went well, but there were people in black suits standing in the alley. He sensed something was wrong. Should he go to another street? Suddenly a little girl came up to him and offered him some candy. "Girl, what are you doing here so late and alone?" She said she was one of the activists and helped strangers by giving them a ray of kindness. "The teacher said I have to give out this candy or she won't give me a red flower as a reward." Hao took the candy and said he would walk her home as it is not safe to be on the street alone at this time. He ate the candy and began to pass out. He woke up in a room he didn't know. There were 2 people standing in front of him. They asked him if he was awake. Hao didn't understand what was going on here at all. Where was he? His hands and feet were tied, he couldn't move. "Who am I? Where am I? What do they want with me? I don't think that many scary women have gathered to kill and bury me." One of the assistants said, "Director Wei." He woke up. "So it's all you. You tied me up, it's against the law. Why is a junior standing here smoking? Actually, I'm already 30, I just look young. At that moment, Miss Wei told everyone to leave the room. Man, be patient, don't disturb me, I'm working. If you didn't want me to bother you, why did you have to tie me up? She nervously put her pen on the table and walked over to him. Last time you dared to run away from me, and now you're rude to me. Always sassing me, did you really think I wouldn't act that way? I don't understand, you told me to be your man and yet you have no such interest in me. She was silent and said nothing. Hao said that to her he is just an unresolved issue. Wei Nan, director of Feng Hong Media Group. The current head of the Wei family, your family used to engage in illegal and semi-legal activities, but after you took over, changed all the order and abandoned the illegal. In addition, you consolidated all the other businesses and created Feng Hong Media. The businesses spread into different industries and became the most successful in the whole country. They call you the fairy of the nation, such a prominent person, and fell in love with me. Do you expect me to believe that? Besides, you kept telling me to be your star. Are you that star-starved? I don't know what you're thinking, and I don't even want to know. I just want to live a quiet life and not get mixed up with you. So please let me go, thank you in advance. Mrs. Wei was very surprised by all that Hao said to her. She said, really, you're not Hao at all. Hao was shocked and asked what she meant. She clarified that as of this day, he is no longer Hao. So what does that mean? I mean, I'm not Hao. What do you think I am? You're too different from the last Hao. I found out all about you. You know how you used to be. The school's first handsome boy, you're from a broken home, your father had a hard time raising you on his own. As a result, you grew up to be a virtuous and meek man, as expected of you. In school your popularity played into your hands, so your grades were also good. You ended up being the object of passion for all the girls in school. People assessed you as gentle, sweet, sensitive, responsive and soft masculine guy. Nowadays, the word effeminate would be more appropriate, don't you think? You and that Hao are completely different personalities. Hao thought, what a self-righteous moron I am. I didn't expect anyone to get to the bottom of it. I crossed over into this world so suddenly. It all happened because of the blood moon. All this time I was trying to adapt, so I didn't even have time to figure out the past of this body. But how could she figure out that I'm not Hao, based on this data? Madame Wei said something else. She realized that he in front of her was no longer excited like before. What? Why would I be excited just because you're famous? No, you were a fanatic who followed me around. What? No way, really. Mrs. Wei put out her cigarette and said that in the past he had openly confessed his love to her on social media. If he didn't believe it, right now, he could check it out for himself. He was horrified when he opened his phone and started leafing through social media stories, and he got to the bottom of those postings where he confessed his love to Mrs. Wei. Hao was stunned and didn't know what to say. He thought, of course I knew that the previous owner of the body posted statuses in the moment, but he did it every day and I looked through the last 3 months and gave it up. Who knew it was a year ago? Mrs. Wei sat down next to him and said to him, by the look of you, you never got influenced like my fan. And don't tell me you have multiple personalities or memory loss. Of course I'm not saying it doesn't exist. People with such diagnoses change their character beyond recognition because of multiple personalities living in the same body. But man is a creature born to learn. We cannot master knowledge that we did not have before just because our character has changed. You have already managed to reach the top 100 after just 1 month of blogging. Judging by your game account, you have never played a video game before. You never fought before, but now you openly attack your opponents and defeat them with ease. So I can say with certainty that you don't have a split personality. In fact, you switched souls. Hao laughed and told her that she was crazy, because that would never occur to a normal person. Let's suppose that's true, what would you do next? Hao wondered, what if she is just like me? If I really came from another world, how would you go about it? Mrs. Wei answered that her company is researching a rare phenomenon that occurs once a century, called the blood moon. Hao sat in a stupor. he remembered the very girl who had sent him to this world. Mistress continued to speak. According to her research, Hao's character changed drastically a few days after this phenomenon, so it clearly had something to do with the blood moon. Hao replied, "How can he be so sure?" Mrs. Wei agreed to tell him about it, but on one condition, if only he would help facilitate them. He asked her if it would cripple him in any way. She replied that she guaranteed his safety, at least they wouldn't experiment on him. Mrs. Wei said there was a contract on the nightstand, with clauses about assistance and the amount of remuneration. She hoped he would be okay with that. He asked her if anyone else besides her was researching this phenomenon. She said that as far as she knew, she was the only one. Hao took the contract and said he would read it at home. He did not expect to find anyone in this world who knew about the blood moon, but Hao did not understand what the blood moon's task was, and it was too risky to sign a contract without thinking. Hao said that if that was all, he went home. It was late and his family had probably already waited. Mrs. Wei smiled and said, "I hope this time you won't test my patience." Twisted his arms and leaned him against the wall. Hao asked her, "What does it all mean?" She said it was in response to his last prank and spanked him. Then he went home. He said in amazement that he would never forget this humiliation because he was spanked by a woman. Hao went home. Right in front of the door he met Sister Qianqin. She was putting on her sneakers. She hugged him and said, "You're finally back. I was so worried about you." He wondered if she was going to look for me on the street. "It's good that I came back in time." Hao apologized for making her worry. Qianqin asked where he was. Hao said he just took a walk and completely forgot about the time. Hao said he was going to take a shower and then go straight to bed. Suddenly she grabbed his hand and asked him, "Have you been out with some girl?" Qianqin looked at him with a scornful look and said, "You smell of other people's perfume." Hao went out with some girl. "You stink of other people's perfume." "No, I was alone. Do I smell of women's perfume?" "Damn, why is her perfume scent so heavy?" "Oh, it must have gotten into my clothes in line for ice cream." She went over to him and told him he had to be more careful or he might get molested. "All right, go take a bath and change, and sis will wash your clothes." "Thank you, sis." At that time Mrs. Wei called the secretary and gave her the file of a girl. She told her to find out everything about this person. The secretary took the file in her hands and wondered, Zhang Qianqin, Hao's stepsister. Wei told her to find out all the information about her throughout her life. She suspected her, as if she became Hao's half-sister for a reason. At this point, Qianqin burned Hao's clothes and said that Hao's body should not have the scent of a Chuhe woman on it. 15 minutes later, Hao came out of the bathroom. He saw stepsister Qianqin standing by the refrigerator and choosing a drink. She asked him what he wanted to drink. Hao said he wanted milk. He wondered if his stepsister had such a great figure. She gave him milk and told him to go into her room so she could dry his hair. Hao said he would go into her room now. Hao went into her room and sat down by the computer. Her stepsister was drying his hair. Suddenly he saw a notification on the computer. Someone texted his sister. It was a strange guy. He wrote her obscene things. Hao was greatly surprised by his messages. "Sis, I'm sorry, I accidentally saw a message addressed to you." "It's okay, I'll tell him I have a boyfriend." "Sis, don't waste your attention on people like him. No reason for him to send you such pictures. It is unlikely that he is someone decent." Qianqin hugged him and said, "Hao is so worried about his sister. I'm glad about that. Don't worry, I will definitely not reply to this message. I'm going to take a bath too, Hao. In the meantime you can ban people like this." Suddenly he noticed that his sister's chats had an angel tab and there was only one chat. It was a chat with Hao. At that moment he wondered greatly why he was alone in that tab, and suddenly he remembered the very book that was on the field in his stepsister's room. Memories from that book began to appear before his eyes. Hao was horrified as to why he suddenly remembered it. The next day, Hao sat on the bench and remembered the events he had with half-sister Qianqin. She always looked at him with satisfied eyes. "If you recall, when I piled on top of her, she didn't really fight back, right? At this point Lin came up to him. He said he had heard about how doing streaming on the platform. Lin wanted to compete with him tonight. Whoever had the most donates would win. Hao said he wasn't interested. Why not? Are you afraid of losing? Hao boldly replied that Lin was fed up with him. Why did he even get attached to him? Nothing else to do. Lin was greatly surprised by his words and said that today everyone will see who will be in first place. Unexpectedly, Luan appeared and said that Hao has nothing to fear and the number of views Hao has 800 times more. Lin said, "That's fine, tonight we'll see who's who. Brother Hao, good luck, you'll win for sure." In the evening Hao came home and started the evening stream. He played a ranked game and turned on the donation feature to beat Lin. He was beating all the players one by one with ease. Suddenly one of the viewers under the nickname Wei sent a donation of X9.99. Hao was very surprised by such numbers. What? That can't be. Did Mrs. Wei send this donation? But why? It's a lot of money. Hao wondered, maybe she discounted the donation so that he would remember her and respond to her offer of cooperation. But this contract did not suit Hao, as the research participant must stop any educational activities, cross the specified territory, any contact with the outside world is prohibited, responsibility for violations of the contract is held by Party A, accommodation and food at the expense of the employer, the salary is 30,000 yuan per month. Hao discarded the contract because the conditions were simply unbearable for him. I do not yet know what the task of the Blood Moon is, so to lock myself in some ship I think it is a completely stupid idea. First need to find out what is behind the task, but in the meantime have to look for an excuse to refuse again Mrs. Wei. In the meantime, Hao has won the donation ranking and has taken first place. At this time in Lin's house, he said during the streamer that his stomach was sick, so he ends the streamer. He was furious that Hao came in first place. He promised to get rid of Hao. Lin picked up the phone and called Mo. He asked her for one favor and asked her not to worry her as he was willing to pay well for it. The next morning Hao went to the flower store. Sister Qian Qin asked to buy his lily flowers. Not far away from him the girls were following him. His friend asked Mo, "Is this the Hao that Lin ordered?" Suddenly Mo stopped and stood in a stupor. "Hey fuck, that's him, hurry up and call Director Wei." At that moment the secretary came up to Mrs. Wei and said she had something to report to her. It's about Hao. Mrs. Wei took off her glasses and told her to report immediately. The secretary said, "Our subordinate reported that Hao had a fight with one of the streamers from the venue, named Lin Zhong. He talked her into getting his naked pictures of Hao, but as soon as she recognized him as your man, she immediately reported you." Mrs. Wei told her to make the streamer site terminate the contract with this Luan Jun. Hao came home and wondered how much money Mrs. Wei had, because she had paid a very large sum of money yesterday. Suddenly Mrs. Wei called him. Qian Qin heard a woman's voice and asked Hao who he was talking to. Hao answered that he was getting a call from an advertising agency advertising insurance. He felt as if he had just been in big trouble. Mrs. Wei got angry and ordered her to get her car ready. Hao thought, "I just hung up." That was not very polite to Mrs. Wei. He was just about to call her back. Suddenly she called him back. She shouted at him and said either he goes outside himself or she takes him out of the house. Hao looked out the window and was shocked. There were more than 6 new Rolls Royces outside his house. He exclaimed to her on the phone, did she really come to him, and Hao started threatening her with the police. She said it's not a crime to park cars in front of his house. "Okay, you got it, move the cars and then I'll come out." "Sis, I have to go to the store," Qian Qin asked him, "do you want me to go with you?" "No, I don't need to, I can manage on my own and I'll be back soon." "I'm out, I'm hanging up." Madame Wei asked him who else did he manage to piss off besides her, since there's always someone watching Hao. "She told me to keep walking, 30 meters to the car to your right, he's in that black car, he probably has a gun with him." Hao asked her, how safe is her way? "After all, it's so dangerous outside, and I'm actually an ordinary schoolboy, I'm pretty easy to kill, so I'll go back home. Miss Wei asked him, aren't you afraid that this man will follow your family? That would be even more dangerous. Try to draw him out while I'm around, I'll help you finish him off. Hao agreed with her. Wei told him not to get too close and asked him to wait until she got there. Wei ordered the place surrounded. The secretary asked her, will you go there in person? At that moment someone came out to Hao. He was wearing a black robe and a white mask. He said to him, you finally came out, I'm going to kill you. Hao asked him, who was he? He looked at Hao angrily and was ready to pounce on him. Suddenly he ran after Hao and started to attack him. Hao deftly dodged all the blows and tried to run away from him. The anonymous man told him to stop running like a rat. At the same time Hao noticed that the attacker had powerful attacks but very low speed. Hao analyzed him and decided to act. Anonymous tried to hit Hao again, but he dodged again and set his foot at the last moment. Anonymous stumbled and fell down. Hao walked up to him and twisted one arm and told him not to twitch. He asked again who was he. Anonymous replied if it wasn't for Hao he wouldn't have slipped to this state, it was all Hao's fault. Hao reached out his hand to remove his mask. But Anonymous hit him again and Hao sat down on the pavement. Hao was frightened by his strength, he was too powerful. Anonymous walked up to Hao and looked at him mercilessly. He took out a knife and swung it at Hao. At that moment Hao thought, I am going to die like this in this world. But at the last moment Miss Wei defended Hao and hit the anonymous man in the face. The blow made the anonymous man's mask come off and Miss Wei said, I already thought you ran away somewhere in the suburbs, but you're following Hao instead. That anonymous person was Lu Xian. Hao told her that he refused to be her keeper and she decided to kill him for it. Lu Xian replied, if you hadn't seduced, she wouldn't have put me in jail. Miss Wei answered that Hao had nothing to do with the situation. Moreover, you and your friends hid behind the name of Feng Hong Media Group and oppressed the weak and extorted money, forcing young boys to serve you. In short, you violated all the rules established by me. Miss Wei gathered her hair and said it was time to sort it out to the end. She swung around and hit Lu Xian with all her might. Hao told Miss Wei that he was glad it was over. He asked her to walk him home as it was late and he had to go home, otherwise his sister would worry again. Miss Wei looked at him and asked, has he forgotten why she came here? She told him that the contract was one of the reasons they met, plus someone had ordered naked pictures of him. Hao asked who could have done all this. Wei replied, it doesn't matter, the main thing is that you hung up on me before I finished talking. You didn't want to continue our conversation that badly. He bowed to her and apologized to Miss Wei for hanging up. Miss Wei accepted his apology and asked if he was willing to be punished. She came up to Hao and kissed him. He was shocked by the situation. Hao wondered what was going on. Am I being kissed and what should I do? Should I push her away? But her lips are so soft, and besides she is such a beauty, and I'm just an ordinary man, so my reaction is not surprising, especially since I myself came to her. But at that moment Hao remembered his stepsister and told Miss Wei that it was unnecessary and why she was hitting on a high school student, and in fact it was his first kiss. Miss Wei wondered, because she didn't know it was his first kiss. Hao said, okay, you could me today, so let's just consider that I paid you with a kiss and you were the one who sent me the donation yesterday, right? I'll pay you back, that's how we'll be even. Wei said that the money was nothing to her and that is why he had decided to cut off all ties with her and that is why he had dodged the contract all this time. Hao said unfortunately I can't sign the contract. She asked him the reason. Hao said it's complicated with our relationship, it's late, I'll go. When Hao came home he laid down on his bed and wondered, because when he kissed Miss Wei the image of half-sister Qian Qin appeared before his eyes. I guess I do have feelings for her. The next day Hao went to school and met Yu Hua. He noticed she was wearing black stockings instead of white. Yu Hua asked him why he was staring at her legs. He said he was only staring and handed her a gun key chain. He thanked her for teaching him martial arts. She thanked him for the gift and promised to treasure it for sure. Hao wondered if she had just put on a different color of stocking, but he had the feeling that she had become a completely different person. Yu Hua noticed him looking at her legs again. She asked what was wrong with her legs. During the lunch break at school, Hao asked Yu Hua why she often looked at her feet all day. She replied, "Because you look at them a lot today, do you like them?" Hao asked, "Is it so obvious? You actually have very beautiful legs." Yu Hua was embarrassed, but she was pleased to hear Hao say that and told him he could touch them. Hao was in a stupor. He asked, "Do you want me to feel them?" "Yes, after I met you, at least someone has eaten with me, so I am happy." "Don't you want to feel my legs?" Hao was embarrassed, because such a pretty girl wants him to feel her legs. Why should Hao refuse her? Hao said, "Would you refuse if I asked you to sit on my lap?" Yu Hua without sitting on his lap and asked, "Like this?" Hao thought, Yu Hua is so obedient, she is just a treasure in this matriarchal world. She continued to sit on his lap and said no one had ever hugged her like this. Suddenly he noticed the keychain on her hand. He asked her why she wore it on her arm. Yu Hua said it was her first gift from a friend, so she wanted to wear it on her body. "I used to give gifts to others and they didn't give them to me." Hao told her that they were not real friends and told her not to communicate with them anymore. "Huang Yuan didn't ask you for money?" Yu Hua replied, "No, she sent me a lot of adult books and movies, but I listened to you and stopped watching that." After a while the class started. Suddenly Hao noticed a rubber toy next to his desk, but at that moment a classmate picked it up and exclaimed, "How could you bring such a thing to school?" Hao was stunned and didn't know what to say. "You're just desecrating the school atmosphere, and you've seduced students to compete for you before." Classmates started discussing Hao. Classmates stood up for Hao and said that he's not like that. The head teacher didn't have time to figure it out and they started accusing him. Cao said, "Look, under my desk are things that others throw away. With this thing too, do not even think that such a thing could belong to me, and even more, stop making me angry all the time, such tricks. Otherwise I guarantee that I'll put this thing in someone's mouth." The classmate said, "He's tough and is the best looking guy in school, supposed to be like that." Luan, Yu Hua and some classmates came up to Hao and told him they believed that it was not his and asked him to calm down. The next day he found them under his desk again and threw them away. On the second and third day they appeared under his desk again. He was very angry and exclaimed, "They planted those things every day. Do they have a factory there?" In gym class, Luan said that another guy was discussing him. He said that every day you take this thing to school. Who's always setting you up? "I don't know, every day someone puts it under my desk for the fourth or fifth day." Luan asked, "What should we do?" Hao replied, "Don't worry, I have my own ways. I'll have to ask Yu Hua to help me." After the lessons Hao told Yu Hua his plan. He asked her to ask her butler to help them with his plan. Late at night they went to the school and set up a laser trap that Yu Hua's butler gave them. In the morning they set up an ambush. Lin went over to Hao's desk and wanted to put this rubber thing under Hao's desk, but at that moment the laser trap went off and the alarm went off. At that moment Hao came out of the closet and took a picture of him. He threw the thing at Lin and hit him right in the face. He said he could keep the thing. Hao was about to leave the class, but at that moment Lin exclaimed to his friends that they wouldn't let him leave. Suddenly several athletic girls stood in front of him. Lin ordered them to drag him to the bathroom. They wanted to grab him, but Hao started to defend himself and hit the attacking girl. He tried to tackle everyone, but one girl kicked him and Hao flew away a few meters. At that moment Yu Hua came in and she saw several girls beating Hao. She was furious and rushed to help him. She started beating all those who were beating Hao hard, and after 10 minutes all the abusers were severely beaten. Hao walked up to Yu Hua and asked her to stop. After a while, the principal announced a statement that a student Lin from 2nd grade brought a prohibited item into the school with the intention of spitting on student Hao. Lin is sentenced to a reprimand. Pupil Yu Hua got into a fight in the classroom and she is to be reprimanded. Luan asked Hao, is she going to be okay? I heard that 2 of the battered students are in the hospital. Hao answered, I don't know, I have a bad feeling, Yuhua's family is very strict, I hope she will be okay. After school, Hao came home and immediately went to his room. Dad thought, what made Hao in such a hurry? Hao decided to call Yuhua to see how she was doing. She picked up the phone and told him that her mom had locked her in the punishment cell. She was scared and that's why she was crying. Every time I break the rules, my mom locks me in here to think about my behavior. She locks me in here for 2 days. Yuhua told him it's very dark and she's very scared. Hao said he would talk to her and asked what she wanted to talk to him about. Yuhua said she didn't care, she just wanted to talk about something. Hao decided to tell her about his story he is writing. His novel is called Real Men's World. The men in this world have 6 abs cubes. They are brave and strong. Hard work like carrying bricks is done by men. In dangerous fields like the police, more men than women. The main character of my story is a man who got into another world, who aspires to become immortal. He is the strongest man of the world. He has the hardest task to save the world from the end of the world. On his way he kills monsters and becomes stronger, and also meets many beautiful and kind girls, and they admire his abilities well, and of course many girls chase after beauty. Hao talked about his story for a long time and said that his story is against all concepts of the world. Yuhua said that his story really is not like reality. Men are so weak, women are strong, and we should protect men and save the world. Yuhua and Hao talked on the phone for a long time and they went to bed late at night. In the morning Hao woke up and realized that he had a cold. Qianqin's sister came to him and said that she wanted to invite him for breakfast and that he had a cold. Qianqin said that he should take medicine. Hao said he had no strength to move because of yesterday's rain. Unexpectedly Qianqin said that in this case she could help him. She took a pill with her teeth and approached Hao. He wondered if Sister Qianqin wanted to feed him medicine by mouth. But as it turned out it was a dream. Qianqin asked him if she could help him. Qianqin helped him get up. She thought, it seems Hao resisted me, maybe he guessed something. Sis told him to eat his porridge while it is hot. Hao thought, and other sisters also take care of every little thing of their brothers, besides we are not blood relatives. He asked her why she cared so much for him since she was not his own sister. Qianqin said, because you are worthy of it, and if you want, I will take care of you all my life. Hao told her sister that she didn't need to put off her business because of him, but she replied that as long as he was more she had no mood to do anything else. Hao thought, still I have a strange feeling, but next to my sister I am overwhelmed with an inexplicable calm. After 5 minutes Hao fell asleep and Sis Qianqin said, Hao really fell asleep. Earlier he would not fall asleep so calmly. Hao Sis wants to tell you, but is afraid that you will feel disgusted with me. At this time Miss Wei was sitting in her house and said, this is the first time I have seen him so humble and sweet, and kissed him forcibly. His self-confidence and arrogance that seems to have been absorbed into his essence. He is the most unusual man I have ever met. At this point Wei caught herself thinking and said, stop Wei, are you really in love with him?